Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Jordyn and welcome to my Blackathon vlog. I'm so excited to be participating in this readathon this year. It is hosted every year by Jesse over at Bowties and Books, and they always put so much effort into planning this readathon, from the theme to the prompts to the teams you can join and to scheduling sprints for the whole entire month, and really just making February a month full of appreciation for Black authors, Black characters, Black stories, and I am excited to be participating. Unfortunately, I am not able to participate to the fullest extent, which would be like joining a team and looking up all the prompts and trying to read a book to fit every prompt. I would love to do that for the whole entire month, but here's the thing, my life is crazy right now. Announcement time, we're moving. I currently live in the middle of Iowa and we're moving up to the Minneapolis area. So it's like 3 hours away, a whole different state. I have 2 toddlers, so we're moving as a family of 4, which just comes with a lot of stuff and trying to list our house on the market and try to do house hunting and find a new house in that new location and also stay on top of all of our normal day-to-day responsibilities. It's just a lot, so my mind is a little bit overwhelmed at the moment. So luckily, when I watched Jesse's announcement video for this readathon, they mentioned that there is specifically a 48-hour readathon kind of within the month-long readathon that is happening this weekend, the 9th through the 11th. And I thought that is the perfect time for me to participate. So that's what this vlog is going to be. I'm going to be reading some hopefully amazing books by Black authors. Other than reading, we'll talk about what my other plans are and things you'll see in this video. But let's talk about the books I have planned first. Like I said, Jesse did go all out in planning all of the prompts that you can fulfill with your books. I decided to mainly focus on what I already own and was already wanting to read this month. So that includes 2 physical books. The 2 books that I will be reading this weekend are finishing this one. This is called Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert. This is a romance book. It's a young adult romance about these 2 students who are in the English equivalent to high school over in the UK, and they have been accepted into this like leadership program that is essentially putting them in the wilderness to learn to survive and adapt and whatnot. And they were previously friends as children, and then something happened as they grew up to kind of turn them into enemies. And now they're in this program together and they are rekindling their feelings. I'm actually already well into this book, so my first priority will be finishing this one. I'm on page 188 out of about 320, so I'm getting close to the end. So far I am enjoying it. It is just a fun young adult romance, so it's nothing too serious. I do like the outdoorsy elements. I wish there were more of them. There's actually quite a bit of this book that is based back at their normal school, and I wish more of the majority of it was taking place out in the wilderness, but that's just a personal preference thing. Otherwise, it's pretty adorable, so I will be finishing this weekend. The other physical book I want to get to is Long Shot by Kennedy Ryan, another romance. Kennedy Ryan had a book on my top 10 favorites of all of last year in 2022, so I know I want to dive more into her backlist. And I've heard nothing but great things about this series in particular. It is a sports romance, which is outside of my comfort zone. I have not read a lot of those, but I'm hoping it's as emotional as Kennedy Ryan's other book. I've heard that it is, so very excited to dive into this, and hopefully I enjoy it and want to continue on in the series. And then the third book I will be reading this weekend to give myself a break from all of the romance is actually a recommendation from Jesse. They mentioned this book as the buddy read or like group book for one of the teams, and the book itself just sounded really interesting to me, so I looked if I could get it on audio anywhere, and it is on Scribd. I'll pop up the cover here, but it's called She Would Be King by Wayetu Moore. And this is much more of a literary type of book. I think it's classified as like historical fiction with a little bit of magical realism. It is set in Liberia, and I think we're going to meet 3 main characters or have 3 different stories we're following, but so far I've only heard from one. I did just barely start this on audio, and the one we're following so far is a girl who is immortal, which is interesting. Fantasy is very outside of my element, but Jesse spoke so highly of this book that I was willing to give it a try. But anyway, she is immortal. She's also pregnant, and I think she gets ostracized from her community. And then I think she intersects with 2 other main characters that we're going to hear about later. And it's just going to be a story about the strength of women, and I'm ready for it to impact me really deeply. So excited to get back into the audio of this one. So kind of weird for me that I'm in the middle of multiple books, but This one I have on audio, the other one I'm working on physically. Today is Thursday, February 9th, so it is a work day for me. I'm going to get back to work here shortly. And then this weekend, my husband's and my main priority is going to be getting our house ready for staging and listing for sale, which with 2 toddlers who think it is their life's mission to destroy everything in their path is very difficult, not only to get it to a state of clean and organized, but to keep it that way. I'm not sure how that's gonna go. So maybe we can get some help from my family who lives close by. They can do some extra babysitting for us so that we can really focus on our house. I also will be working on Valentine's this weekend. Let me get up and show you the current status because next week is Valentine's Day and my kids go to daycare, and I was told that my daughter's class, she needs Valentine's for, even though she's only 3. So I was at the store looking for Valentine's, and I was at Target and they really didn't have many options that I could find for like the type of Valentine's we grew up giving and getting. All they had were like really small, like little mini cards. So I didn't like those. So I decided to have my kids do some painting on just regular paper, and then I would kind of turn those into Valentines. So this is what we ended up with. This was my daughter's. She is 3. And I just had her do some, you know, abstract painting. And then I thought I would like cut these into cute heart shapes or something and write something on top of them to say Happy Valentine's Day. This was my son, who is 18 months old. I don't think he needs Valentine's, so I might use a couple of these for my daughter to make sure I have enough. And then I just have like bubble sticks and some sticker sheets to put in. I was doing some research on Pinterest, and it looks like you can cut paper into a heart and make a cute little like envelope or something. So that's just what I'm gonna do. I figured this was way cheaper than the Valentines I was gonna get at the store and didn't even like. Plus it's cute that she's so little and like made some art and made these homemade. And these I did get for the teachers at their daycare so they can enjoy some chocolate since I'm not giving the kids any candy. I don't know, this might turn out super lame because I am not an artist by any means, but my daughter is 3 and the kids in her class are 3 and 4. So I don't feel like they have very high expectations for Valentine's that they're gonna be giving or receiving. Oh, I also need to make my daughter a box to hold the Valentines she gets. So there may be some crafting footage in this vlog. And that's really the only other thing I'm going to be planning to attempt this weekend other than getting our house ready for selling. So that is the excitement. I will go ahead and bring you along. I'll update you when I have reading updates, but otherwise you're just going to see the chaotic day in the life or 48 hours in the life of a working reading mother. Stickers do you want?
Dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs?
Yeah.
Okay. And Band-Aids, great.
Maybe I should do some more dinosaurs. There's 2 dinosaurs. I want 2 dinosaurs.
Okay. Good morning. It is the next day. It's Friday and I have some updates for you. First things first is I finished a book. I finished Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute, and this was cute. Definitely not a new favorite romance. I have similar feelings to, I think, a lot of people who have read this book. It reads very young adult, and sometimes I can really enjoy young adult romances, but that's usually when they're a little bit more mature in nature and content. This one was very much these students trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives, what they want to do for college, talking to their parents about their decisions, and like coming into themselves, which is great. And I think for the intended audience, for a young adult audience, that's going to be perfect. Hopefully it resonates with a lot of people from that aspect. The romance was also very cute. They're in high school. It's nothing too serious. The like survival aspect in this book was just super lacking. I definitely wish that was more of a prominent part of the plot. We just didn't spend enough time with these characters like in the wilderness and solving the problems that they're supposed to be solving to gain the skills from this leadership program that they're supposedly supposed to be gaining. It would actually like introduce their next task or what they're supposed to do and like give all the rules, and it would just barely lead us into them actually doing the thing, and then it would skip forward and just tell us what happened over those several hours when they were doing the thing. And for me, that's what I wanted to read. I wanted to read them doing the thing, searching for the clues, finding the things they were supposed to find, surviving in the wilderness and overcoming obstacles and things. I would have been way more interested in that, so definitely was missing that in this book. So I'm gonna give it 3 stars. Again, it was fun, it was cute, it was pretty much what I expected. I would have been surprised if there was more in this book than just a cutesy high school romance, but here we are. The main character, the guy, is bisexual, so I really enjoyed that representation because he did talk about that a couple times. He also has OCD. I can't say whether that was good or accurate representation because I do not have OCD, but it was in there. And then the girl main character, I would say, is struggling with more family issues. She's got a very strained relationship with her father, and he is present in this book in like a tangential way. So that is what she's dealing with. And I did appreciate the inclusion of those. I don't think they were too heavy-handed. They didn't weigh the book down very much, but it was just like natural integration. So that's the first book done. That feels good. And then I also have gotten 22% into She Would Be King. This book, on the other hand, totally different tone. Way, way darker and heavier and emotional and really difficult to read. This focuses a lot on slavery and the treatment of slaves, the treatment of women, the treatment of mothers, expectant mothers who aren't married, just a lot of mistreatment, and it's pretty horrifying to read. It's graphic in the depictions of some of the abuse, so it's a tough read. I'm definitely getting connected to some of these characters. Like I mentioned in the beginning, one of the characters is pregnant and she ends up having the child, and we're following that child now as he's growing up. And I'm interested to see maybe if there's a difference between how he is treated and how his mother was treated. And there's several other female characters that are prominent in the story so far. I'm not yet sure what the plot is, or if there's really a plot that we're following, or if it's more of just a character study within this village or place in Liberia. I'm hoping if it's the latter that I stay connected with the characters, because sometimes I struggle if there's not like a really firm plot to be following. But this might not be that type of story, so I'm going to have to adapt. And that is the goal today, is to finish this book, hopefully. It's a work day. I've already dropped off my children. I'm gonna have to go downstairs and log into work pretty soon because my first meeting starts in about half an hour. I am doing my productivity sprints today. Every Friday I do productivity sprints in the afternoon because typically Fridays for me, after my morning meetings, are just open for work time, and it's my hardest time to stay focused and productive. So doing productivity sprints on my channel definitely helps me stay accountable to getting my work done. So looking forward to those starting in a few hours. And then I also just wanted to highlight, I included some footage of my daughter making her Valentine's box last night, and I think it is the most adorable thing I've ever seen. We used a box that is for like the squeezy applesauce pouches, and it has a really nice just like opening on top. So I figured that's how she would put the Valentine's in there. And I had a bunch of random vinyl sheets that I thought she could pick what colors she wanted, and then I cut them to size and stuck them on the box, and then she decorated on top of that with stickers. This front side, she wanted yellow, or she picked yellow, but the yellow that I had was transparent, and not opaque, so you can see like the applesauce pouch box underneath. And I asked her if she wanted to pick a different color instead, but she said no, she liked it. So we are sticking with it, and that is the final result. I'm probably just going to write her name on it somewhere. And this just affirms to me that while I love to be the DIY mom who can make something amazing and beautiful, that's fun, but it's also fun to just let your child play. And again, my daughter is 3, so she doesn't care if her box is picture perfect, but she will have the memories of being able to decorate it herself. And she let her brother even put some stickers on it, which was great. So could you tell that this is a Valentine's box just by looking at it? Probably not. But I think she is going to really love taking this to daycare next week and getting her Valentine's inside of it. So that was the excitement of last night. And other than that, I don't think I have any major updates. Man, I look kind of tired today. But I will just check in either later today or whenever I have an update on my reading. Really hoping I get this audiobook knocked out and then can read the Kennedy Ryan book maybe tonight and tomorrow. Okay, it is the next day. It's Saturday. I believe this 48-hour readathon technically ended this morning, but I'm gonna go ahead and extend my reading in this vlog through the weekend since I was working most of the last 2 days and I want to finish the books that I have been talking about. So I've been cleaning all day today. My husband and I both have been putting a bunch of work into our house, so I didn't do much filming because we were really just trying to be as productive as possible, and I only have done a little bit of listening, so I still have an hour left of She Would Be King, and so far my thoughts are really the same. I'm generally enjoying it. It was a little intimidating when first starting this book because I didn't know if it would go over my head, especially with like the magical realism elements of it. I didn't know if it would be my thing, but I am really enjoying the story. It continues to just be a gut punch and so hard to listen to, but moving to listen to. There are so many characters to connect with, and I'm really enjoying it. So I am going to go ahead and finish the last hour of the audiobook now. I just got my kids in bed. My husband is actually out this evening. He'll be gone for at least another hour, so it will be perfect timing to listen to this. I'm gonna go ahead and relax. I feel like I still have a million things to do with the house, but I'm gonna take it easy because we still have all of tomorrow to work on the house. So I thought as I was listening to that last hour, I would color, which is not something I usually do as a hobby. I find it very satisfying. I do like coloring, but usually I gravitate more towards like doing a puzzle or something with my leisure time and like to keep my brain occupied. So coloring will be a nice compact activity for me to just do in bed as I'm listening to the audiobook. So I guess that's what I'm gonna do tonight. So I'll go ahead and show that as my next little clip and stuff. Not sure when I'll check back in. It will either be tonight when I finish that book or maybe tomorrow, so I can give my final update and thoughts on She Would Be King. And then I'm so excited to start and hopefully finish Longshot as soon as possible. So that is the plan. I'm gonna go ahead and get to leisuring, and I'll be back when I have another super interesting update. Okay, hello. My camera was dying right as I was finishing my coloring, so I thought I would do a little check-in on my phone real quick before I go to bed. But I did finish She Would Be King, and that was a great book. I'm feeling a little conflicted on how to rate it, because it was a type of book that, like, it isn't fun to read. You're reading about really difficult situations for the characters. Like I mentioned, it was all about Liberia and the people of Liberia gaining their freedom and escaping slavehood, and even how within freedom there are different levels of freedom and like conditional freedom and just so many complex topics. It was educational, it was interesting, it was heartbreaking, it was emotional, it was difficult to listen to, but great for all of those reasons. I think I'm gonna rate it 4 stars. I'm gonna have to continue thinking about the magical realism elements, because there were some people who had like powers. Like I mentioned, our main girl was immortal, and that came into play at several points throughout the story, and I'm gonna have to think about how that affected the story and how, like, that of course doesn't reflect reality because people are not immortal. So she got more chances than, you know, a normal person would get. And I'm trying to think of how that impacts the story and how maybe I appreciate some things in reality even more because people who don't have second chances but are taking such great risks means even more. And just like respect and admiration for the people who are in those positions, put themselves in those positions, and fight for what is right when you don't have the guarantee of immortality. Just very interesting, very thought-provoking book. I'm really glad I read it. After I finished that, I did go ahead and start the audio for Longshot. So switching gears for sure into this sports romance. I have not read very many sports romances, or any really that I can think of where sports plays a really major part in the plot. So I'm excited to get into it. I'm only about 10% in right now. We're following 2 characters who are in college. One is a collegiate basketball player. He just played in the national championship game, and he's considering what his life is going to look like after the upcoming NBA draft. He's expecting to be drafted, and he meets at a bar one night this girl named Iris, who is also in college, and she's actually dating a player on the opposing team that this guy is playing in the national championship. And she's really questioning her relationship. I'm assuming she's going to break up with that guy and get with this guy. And I'm very interested to see where it goes with the draft coming up, potentially having to relocate, if they're going to have to figure out how their lives work together. I think it's going to be a good one. So I'm excited to continue listening to this one and hopefully, again, zoom through it. I'm going to go ahead and take a shower and go to bed tonight, so I will listen to a little bit more, but the majority of my listening will be tomorrow. So I will check in once I am either further in or have finished this last book for this Blackathon, readathon. But so far things are going really well, and hopefully that continues to be the case through this last book. Okay guys, final check-in because it is Monday morning, 96 hours after my first clip and 48 hours longer than the original 48-hour readathon was planned for, but that is okay because I have some amazing updates. First things first, I finished Longshot yesterday. I listened to the rest of it pretty much in one go as I was finishing cleaning our house, which I did not film because I was focused. But I loved this book so much. And let me just preface all of it by saying this is way darker than the synopsis makes it sound, and the cover makes it look, and even the other original cover makes it look more steamy, but it's definitely more emotional and triggering. And so heavy content warnings going into this book. However, I loved it. Iris is the main female character in this book, and she is amazing, but she goes through a lot. At the start of this book, she is in a very abusive relationship, and it is very much depicted on the page what she goes through. It is physical abuse, it is sexual abuse, it is emotional abuse. It's really, really difficult to read. And most of this book, I would say, is a lot less about her romance with a better guy and more about her gaining her independence and her freedom from this abusive relationship. And so I would almost say it's more of a contemporary book with a romance subplot than it is just a straight up romance. I also feel like calling it a sports romance is a little misleading because yes, the two guys in this book are professional basketball players, but that's really just a backdrop to everything going on. We don't get a whole lot of sports talk in here. I would have loved if there's more because I do enjoy sports in general. But I guess I would say if that is turning you off from reading this book, like if you're not a sports person, I don't think that should stop you because that's really not the focus at all of the story. But I just was so into this book. I wanted the best for Iris. I wanted to see how she was going to get out of the situation she was in and see better things for her. I will also say that this book contains an accidental pregnancy and then single parenthood, which could possibly be a minor spoiler, but it happens really early on in this book. And I know that some people specifically don't like to read that in their romances, so I also just want to put it out there in case anyone is deciding whether or not to pick up this book. I would also compare this to It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, which probably turns some people really, really off. But I personally also loved and really connected deeply with that book. And this did similar things, has very similar conversations. So it may be a selling point. But again, trigger warnings, content warnings. This is a dark, tough book to read. But I'm excited to check out the rest of that series and find out if it follows like the aftermath of this story or if it follows different characters. I'm not sure, I'm gonna look into it, but I definitely am purchasing the rest of this series with these beautiful covers so I can own them. My other update quickly before I end this video is that I was cleaning for so long yesterday that I was able to start another audiobook. And then I also ended up doing a puzzle during the Super Bowl, which has kind of become my own personal tradition because I don't really care to watch the Super Bowl. Usually my husband is doing that. And while I was listening to the puzzle, I also listened to another audiobook. So I ended up starting and finishing Kindred by Octavia E. Butler yesterday, which is a book I've had on my list for so long. I knew I was going to enjoy this one just based off of its synopsis and people's reviews from reading it. It is a sci-fi book that has to do with time travel, where basically our main character lives in like the 1970s, I think it was. And all of a sudden this thing starts happening to her where she gets sent to the past and she basically meets and is kind of caring for her ancestors and learning about times of slavery and trying to do what she can to help her ancestors and just people in general. And I loved it as much as I was expecting to. 5 stars to this book, 5 stars to this one if I didn't already say that, but 5 stars to Kindred. This book I would most closely compare to Diane Chamberlain books. Specifically, it reminded me a lot of The Dream Daughter, which is about a mother who is pregnant and her unborn child has a medical defect that at the time she's living isn't able to be fixed by technology, but she gets the opportunity to go to the future. And logistical issues start happening when she keeps like time hopping from the past to the future and back and forth. That kind of happens in Kindred, which I just really enjoyed all of that. I love learning about time travel in books and exactly how it works and the logistical challenges that come about trying to balance living in 2 different time periods. I loved it. I just loved it. And though I read The Dream Daughter first, I think it's pretty cool to read Kindred, and I'm assuming Diane Chamberlain has read Kindred and drew some inspiration from it, and probably other books because time travel is not like a super original concept. But it's always fun to read a classic, or in this case more of a modern classic, that has probably inspired a lot of other books you've enjoyed. I think that this book definitely has done that for the time travel trope, which is one of my favorites, and how cool that it was kind of started or cultivated by a female author of color. So I love that. I love that I had 2 5-star books in a row. I just want to go on the record here and say that in January, I did not have any 5-star books, which was a real bummer. I'm not blaming it on this fact, but an observation is that most of my reading in January was dictated by the Goodreads Choice Awards and the 2 videos I did surrounding the nominees in the thriller and romance categories. And the Goodreads Choice Awards nominees were criminally not diverse. So I was reading a lot of white authors and white stories, and I didn't give any of them 5 stars. And now in February, I have been very consciously trying to make up for that and reading almost exclusively diverse authors, and I'm having way more 5-star books. So I feel like that's not a coincidence, and it's a huge reason I do try to include diverse books in my reading, not only because it's important morally and in theory, but also because I legitimately enjoy them oftentimes more. So food for thought. Big thank you and props to Jessie for running Blackathon and introducing readers to so many amazing Black authors and books. I can't wait to read more. This is not something I want to isolate to just February. It's something I absolutely want to incorporate into my reading year round. So I will continue watching people's vlogs and recommendations for books by Black authors and prioritizing them and hopefully loving them. Please let me know if you have any book recommendations by Black authors. What are some of your favorites? Did you read any for a Blackathon this year or still planning to by the time February's over? Other than that, I don't think I have anything else. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one.